I have nights where I can't sleep. I'm not the only one. And what you read is just heart-wrenching for me because it was so true. And more than anything was Democracy's Hypocrisy, which I assume you took from Malcolm X. You were referencing Malcolm X. Malcolm X has a great, Malcolm X is one of my heroes, and Malcolm X has a great speech about democracy being hypocrisy. And I've been putting that all over my Twitter, which I shouldn't be doing while I'm trying to fundraise, because some people don't like Malcolm X, but I don't give a shit because I love Malcolm X. We need a couple of Malcolm X's to fix what's going on at this point in America. I'm going to read from my novel, Train to Poughkeepsie. I've read this section once before, and that was in New York. And I don't know why I've never read it before. The only reason I was pushed to read it today was because I kind of understood more what it was about by reading it in Detroit. So I thought, fitting. The G line is not one of New York's famous train lines. When you watch movies from the 70s and 80s, you don't ever see a G train passing through the screen, threatening to murder you in the safety of your little cave dwelling. Even on New York City subway maps, it's the only train line that doesn't have its own color, having borrowed the sharp green of the 456 and muted it as if to show its own lack of consequence. The G line passes through none of the major train stations of New York. There is no Grand Central or Penn Station. There is no 42nd Street or 14th Street. It has no Coney Island to start at, and no Coney Island with which to end. Of all the train lines in New York, the G line is the one that is the most lost. It is the no-wither of New York's subway system. At Smith and Ninth Street stations, the G line ends. The F train stops through Smith and Ninth Streets, sharing the tracks with the G, but the station is just a footnote along the way of the F train's more significant journey, which ends at Coney Island after a long voyage through Queens, Manhattan, Brooklyn. Like all that which is neglected, the G line is burdened with a tremendous significance, a significance of space. I had never gone farther than its last stop in Brooklyn at Greenpoint Ave, but looking at the subway map as the G train heads to Smith and Ninth Streets, I noticed all that undiscovered country, all that land hinting at its own galaxies of stories, which whisper humbly into Queens and then disappear, unmapped, as if there were another world outside of here toward which the human story goes. The whole morning I had been lost in fragmented recollections of my life. I was terrified by the realization of what I had become. The train stops passed me by: Broadway, Flushing Avenue, Bedford Nostrand Avenue, Classen Avenue. An ad caught my eyes. Two smiling cardboard representations, meant to be human beings, looked directly at me. Everyone on the train was just a colored shadow, but these two faces were so clear, like they're the only real things left. Behind them, white letters announced, "Get tested. AIDS is on the rise." AIDS. I reflected on the acronym just as I had once reflected on the word Poughkeepsie. What are you without your body? I overheard some yuppie say philosophically as I was bringing her another glass of Pinot Noir during my waiter days. Thank you, nothing. Our bodies are all we have. There was a plague that had frightened the race of humankind into an acute awareness of its body. It exposed the frailties and the realities of a physical existence. And what had started as a fight for survival has altered into a myopic view of existence where your body is the primary concern. And the results of banishing the mind and exiling the soul for the autocracy of the body have begun to poison their way out into our fair American paradise. I thought about everyone my age and saw their faces filled with struggle and a sense of impotence. I thought about my most educated generation, handed a crippling amount of promissory debt for diplomas, then placed behind a counter to pour the miracle martini, or by a cafe table to take an order for no-bean vegan cassoulet. The Rimbaud's refrains and Plato's musings now only pricking the failure of our role in the American dream, ever harsher, ever further in. The plague that haunts this generation is another form of AIDS. This disease is the devouring and weakening of the soul. What are you without a body? Well, what are you without a soul? A healthy body, flawless and perfect in its curves with clear skin that's been smoothed by beauty products, and yet there is nothing inside but a soft scratching. What are you without a body? I don't know, I thought, looking at the large ad with its smiling, picturesque faces telling me to, quote-unquote, get tested. I don't know what you are without a body, but I do know that without a soul, you're just another television show. There was a plague that had frightened the human race into an acute awareness of our body. They named it AIDS. 20 years later, a new AIDS stalks us, an AIDS of the soul. Bergen Street, Carroll Street, I am falling. I am falling. The light breaks through the perfect sky like an avalanche of hailfire in a storm, revealing graffiti as we open, rise, your, and rise, eyes, and rise, and then the panoramic glory that the G-Train provides. No more corporate bullshit as it heads in a curve. Fuck Wall Street to Smith 9th Street stations, Brooklyn below us low, Manhattan above us high, the water of the Gowanus Canal gluttoned with still indifference underneath. In the light, it seems so dead. This beautiful morning light heightens how much America has fallen. It shines without its promise across a land of the fatigued who are dreaming of another time and another spirit. The morning light revealed the darkness of death. We are the first generation of Americans who are not American. America rests on no values. It defines itself on no precepts. America is, and always was, and always will be, dependent on its definition by its frontiers, those dark zones yet to be explored. That's what's always made America a land of possibility. The promise of somewhere else, some wilderness still, where a person can go and make themselves anew. The ability to imagine such a place, to imagine it so much that it actually becomes real. I had learned about these frontiers in my high school history class. Most of us learned about these frontiers, that Wild West, conquered and subdued by the 20s in the boring rooms of high school history class. Yet, even without a Wild West, America lived on, even flourished, with all the chaotic elements that come with a real flourishing, a real becoming. America lived on because her frontiers had not died, they had just moved. After the Wild West was won, the places of possibility moved to America's cities. There, a person could go and begin a new life, just as they could once have done in the Wild West. America is no more because her cities are no more. It is gentrification that killed America's cities, and it is the gentrification of the mind that has killed America. Those dreams set forth by Ronald Reagan in his second inaugural address when he promised to restate our values of faith, family, work, and neighborhood have been realized. A new America has been created, an America without frontiers. We are the first generation of Americans who are not American. We began somewhere, and though we ended up nowhere, we will always strive to get back to where we should have been, back to our own promised lands. America has raised a slaughtered generation, and we are that slaughtered generation. We are crippled children trying to find our way back home. It was a beautiful morning. The platform at Smith Ninth Street was mostly empty. When the F train came, I knew that I must go home. And I used to think that home was an end, a place you go when the day is done. But home, like America, like love, like God, is a journey of striving toward humanity. It was a beautiful morning with a clear blue sky. The platform at Smith Ninth Street was mostly empty. Someone asked for the time. 9:03, someone replied, and there was a boy, and there was a dream, and there was a city, and I was standing on the edge, and I heard the clattering, the thunder and the clash of the train, and I saw two lightnings approaching, and then I looked at her, a shadow city, a shadow America, a shadow dream, and I took out a bag of Coke and opened it, but the wind dispersed it into a snowfall, and somewhere in my life the snow is falling, and watched it, I realized we are separate snowflakes. We are no longer part of the storm. I stepped off the platform. Somewhere in my life, the snow is falling. And it is the snowfall of everything I've been and everyone I've known uniting into a storm. I am falling. I am falling. The tracks approach, the street below, 9:03, morning horror, the meadow thunder and the meadow crash. I am falling. I am falling. No one can understand how robbed we felt who is not one of us. I am falling. I am falling. Once upon a time, in a place far away, we were children. I am falling. I am falling. I am falling home.